In a bold and unexpected move, Ghana's newly elected president John Mahama has left Ecows leadership in shock with a dramatic policy shift following his visit to Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, the three nations that broke away from Ecows, accusing it of serving foreign interests and instead forming the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. To fully grasp the weight of this development, we must rewind to just a week prior. Before embarking on his tour of the Sahel nations, Mahama met with Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara, who urged him to engage with the breakaway states in an attempt to reintegrate them into Ecowas. Mahama, appearing diplomatic, told Ouattara to exercise patience as he sought a way to work with them until they returned to constitutional democracy. Yet, what followed was anything but an attempt to bring these countries back into the Ecowas fold. On Saturday, March 8, 2025, President Mahama landed in Bamako, where he held talks with Mali's leader, Colonel Assimi Goïta. In a significant declaration, Mahama stated that Ecowas and AES could coexist without interference. To cement this position, he signed agreements with Mali to open an Accra-Bamako trade corridor, allowing Mali to import essential goods through Ghana's ports. His diplomatic offensive continued the next day, March 9th, in Niamey, where he met with Niger's General Abdourahmane Tiani. There, the two leaders signed an economic partnership focusing on security cooperation, unimpeded trade, and regional stability. Mahama emphasized the importance of recognizing AES and strengthening joint counter-terrorism efforts, arguing that the threat of terrorism is not just a Sahelian problem, but one that also affects Ghana and the broader West African region. The final stop on Mahama's tour was Ouagadougou on March 10th, where he met with the young and fiery Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Here, Mahama proposed opening a daily Accra-Ouagadougou-Accra flight and constructing an oil and gas pipeline to facilitate trade, given Burkina Faso's current exclusion from Ivorian ports. Traoré agreed, marking a major victory for both nations, while Côte d'Ivoire found itself on the losing end. Our objective is to facilitate the free movement of goods and people and ensure the seamless transit of Burkina Faso's merchandise through the Ghana corridor, Mahama declared. In the end, Mahama did not bring AES back into ECOWAS. Instead, he secured economic partnerships and a shared security vision with the breakaway states, directly contradicting Ouattara's wishes. So, the burning question remains, did President Mahama fool Alassane Ouattara? Oh, he most certainly did. If the Ivorian satrap Ouattara played the fool, Mahama proved himself the master strategist. He understands that geopolitics is not just about loyalty to outdated alliances, it is about securing tangible benefits for the people of Ghana and the region. Unlike Ouattara, who remains shackled to external influences, Mahama has demonstrated that African nations can forge their own paths, where business and politics are wisely separated when necessary. As the dust settles, one thing is clear. Mahama's bold pivot may signal the dawn of a new West African geopolitical order, one not dictated by Paris, Washington or Brussels, but by Accra, Bamako, Niamey and Ouagadougou. Before we continue, hit that like and subscribe buttons, so now let us dig deeper to uncover the full implications of this power shift. Across the vast and vibrant tapestry of Africa, a seismic shift is reverberating through the Sahel, sending ripples of hope and defiance to every corner of the continent. Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger formally severed ties with the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, a regional bloc long heralded as a beacon of unity and economic integration in West Africa. In its place, these three nations, led by revolutionary military juntas, have forged the alliance of Sahel States, AES, a bold new confederation rooted in sovereignty, self-determination, and a rejection of neo-colonial shackles. For many Africans, this move is not merely a geopolitical realignment. It is a clarion call for the liberation of the continent from external domination and the reassertion of African agency. Yet, as ECOWAS leaders like Ivory Coast's President Alassane Ouattara push figures like Ghana's President John Mahama to engage these nations, a curious twist emerges. Mahama, despite his diplomatic visits, refrains from demanding their return to ECOWAS. Is this a sign of genuine Pan-African respect for their choice? Or is ECOWAS under pressure from France orchestrating a subtle campaign to reel them back into the fold? The answers lie in the hearts of Africans who see the AES as a long overdue stand against a compromised system. The decision by Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger to exit ECOWAS has ignited celebrations not only in the streets of Ouagadougou, Bamako and Niamey, but also in the minds of Africans from Lagos to Nairobi, Cairo to Cape Town. For too long, Ecows has been perceived as a tool of Western interests, particularly those of France, the former colonial master whose influence still looms large over West Africa. The bloc's response to the coups that swept these nations between 2020 and 2023, imposing crippling sanctions, threatening military intervention, and demanding a return to civilian rule, reeked of hypocrisy to many. While Ecows preached democracy, it turned a blind eye to the failures of civilian governments plagued by corruption, insecurity, and subservience to foreign powers. The juntas, led by figures like Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Mali's Colonel Assimi Goïta, and Niger's General Abdourahmane Chiani, have tapped into a deep well of frustration, promising to prioritise the needs of their people over the dictates of external actors. For Pan-Africanists, this exit is a triumph of self-reliance. The AES represents a rejection of the neo-colonial framework that has kept Africa tethered to the whims of Paris, Washington, and their proxies in regional bodies like Ecows. In Burkina Faso, Traoré's expulsion of French troops and his embrace of local solutions to combat jihadist insurgencies have inspired a generation weary of foreign military bases dotting the continent. In Mali, the shift toward partnerships with Russia and other non-Western powers signals a break from the suffocating grip of France's Operation Barkhane, which many argue exacerbated rather than resolved insecurity. Niger's expulsion of French uranium companies and its demand for fairer resource control echo the cries of Patrice Lumumba and Thomas Sankara, heroes whose visions of economic independence were snuffed out by imperial machinations. Across Africa, social media platforms buzz with hashtags like #AESRising and #AfricaForAfricans as citizens hail the trio's courage to chart a path free from the old guard's playbook. The economic implications further fuel this enthusiasm. Ecows, with its $702 billion market and visa-free travel, was once a symbol of regional unity. But for landlocked Sahel states, the benefits were uneven, often favouring coastal giants like Nigeria and Ivory Coast, while leaving nations like Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger economically marginalised. The AES's plans for a common passport, joint military force and localised trade networks promise a system tailored to the Sahel's unique needs, arid landscapes, nomadic traditions, and a shared struggle against terrorism. Africans see this as a model for regional cooperation that doesn't sacrifice sovereignty on the altar of globalisation, a sentiment echoed by scholars like Dr. Amina Diallo of Senegal's Cheikh Anta Diop University, who told this correspondent, "The AES is proof that Africa can build its own institutions, free from the blueprints of colonial architects." Yet, as the AES gains traction, Ecowas leaders scramble to salvage their crumbling bloc. Ivory Coast's President Alassane Ouattara, alongside Nigeria's Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been vocal in urging Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger to reconsider their exit. Ouattara's March 6, 2025 plea alongside Ghana's John Mahama for the trio to rejoin the West African family was framed as a call for unity, but to Pan-Africanists, it reeks of desperation and French fingerprints. France, with its economic lifeline tied to West Africa's resources, notably Niger's uranium and the region's CFA franc currency, stands to lose significantly if the AES consolidates its independence. Ecowas, long seen as a stabilising force for French interests, has been a key player in maintaining this status quo. The bloc's sanctions on Niger after its 2023 coup, for instance, aligned suspiciously with France's outrage over the junta's anti-French policies. Enter John Mahama, Ghana's newly inaugurated president and a respected figure in Pan-African circles. Appointed as a special envoy to the AES states, Mahama has embarked on a diplomatic tour, meeting Traoré in Ouagadougou on March 10, 2025, and visits to Mali and Niger. Ecowas leaders, particularly Ouattara, appear to be leaning on Mahama's credibility to broker a return. Ouattara's influence in Ecowas is formidable. His close ties to France, forged through decades of economic and political alignment, make him a natural conduit for Parisian interests. Sources within Ecowas suggest that France has quietly pressured the bloc to restore its authority, fearing the AES's pivot to Russia and its potential to inspire other African nations to follow suit. A leaked diplomatic cable, unverified but widely circulated, allegedly shows French officials urging Ouattara to use all levers to prevent the AES from gaining legitimacy. But here's where the plot thickens. Mahama, despite his mandate, has not once publicly demanded that Burkina Faso, Mali or Niger return to Ecowas. In Ouagadougou, he spoke of rebuilding trust and collaboration, even hinting at coexistence between Ecowas and the AES. There's a breakdown of trust, he told journalists, and while rebuilding it will take time, we must work toward mutual respect, even if we're not in the same